This week on Whether or Not, we've got quite a lot of exciting material to cover. We're going to start off talking about flash flooding in Canada, move all the way through forest fires and wildfires, and then end off in the wild expanses of the Atlantic Ocean as the tropical storm and hurricane season begins to kick off. Now, we've got a lot to cover and not a lot of time to do it in, so let's turn things over to Whether or Not. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Whether or Not. I'm student meteorologist Tom Bedard and I will be your host and forecaster for this week's show. Travis Patterson and Christy Shields have the week off. Last week we saw State College's Fourth Fest go off without a hitch. Not a single shower or thunderstorm, though they did try to make their way into State College. A couple of them and some strong cells pushed east and west of town. Now we do have Center County's Arts Festival coming up this Wednesday through Sunday, and that is about 5 days, so we are going to have a greater possibility for seeing a chance, or at least greater than we did at Fourth Fest. I'll talk about that in my forecast, though I can tell you just as a tease, temperatures do look to be a little cooler and sitting closer to the average, which is in the low 80s for the Arts Festival. But for now, let's kick it over to Nature in the News. From the streets of State College to the thoroughfares of Toronto, flooding has become one of the most prevalent dangers this summer. With the central Pennsylvania flooding of Thursday, June 27th, still fresh in our minds, a story emerges from Toronto, Canada. A particularly moisture-laden storm moved over the Canadian city of 2.6 million on the afternoon of Monday, July 8th. The storm caused widespread flooding and the activation of swift water rescue teams to extricate citizens who were trapped in vehicles and trains. A commuter subway, which was carrying its typical load of 1,400 people, stalled in floodwaters and prompted fire and EMS services to use inflatable boats to rescue the occupants. Plane traffic was placed on a standstill until floodwaters receded as well. In the wake of the flooding, over 300,000 people were left without power due to damaged water transmission systems. The storm dumped a record-breaking 4.96 inches of rain onto the city. On the heels of the Yarnell, Arizona wildfire tragedy is a new understanding of how weather affects fires in open environments. Forest fires are influenced heavily by the path and intensity of easily detectable wind patterns, such as the Santa Ana winds, that push dry, hot air down the slopes of coastal California. They are also influenced heavily, but in a much less predictable way, by the wind patterns that result from thunderstorms surrounding wildfires. Winds feed into and out of thunderstorms as they grow and mature. As a thundercloud reaches a certain threshold of water vapor saturation, it begins to produce rain. A microburst or small-scale burst of air that strikes the ground and moves in all directions is a result of rain that evaporates before it reaches the ground. Events like microbursts and afternoon thunderstorms are predictable and well known, but take a keen eye of a meteorologist to recognize them before they occur. At the time of the tragedy, the Yarnell, Arizona wildfire was not yet large enough to draw a committed IMET, or incident meteorologist, who specializes in meteorology surrounding forest fires. This year's tropical cyclone forecast, which initially called for 18 named storms and 9 major storms, is being doubted by some tropical weather meteorologists. As our eyes stay locked on the path of Chantal, the meteorologists at the National Hurricane Center are making sure that they don't lose focus on the ocean water. Areas of abnormally cool or warm water called ocean temperature anomalies have the power to redirect storms or even keep them from forming. Meteorologists are watching for 2 specific types of ocean temperature anomalies, cold pools and warm pools. The cold pools, or areas of cooler ocean water that they're watching for, are directly northwest of Africa, where they may hamper tropical cyclone development. Warm pools, or areas of warmer ocean water, have the ability to decrease atmospheric pressure in the air above them and allow for favorable tropical cyclone development. The NHC says that it will readjust its forecast come August when they are able to more accurately model the temperature of ocean water. While we're on the topic of temperature and pools, let's switch things up and look at your forecast for the Arts Fest weekend.
Well, Tom, I'm not on vacation just yet. I will be moving across the state on Saturday, and I'm sure I'll see a lot of cars streaming into Central County to celebrate Arts Fest. And it actually looks a decent weekend for the first half for Central Pennsylvania, considering we have a low pressure system. Let's take a look at that. The setup this weekend, upper level low southwest of us here in Pennsylvania. And that will keep us a little bit cloudy as we go throughout the day on Friday. A few showers, but I believe those will be restricted to our far most eastern portions of the state on Friday afternoon. Then on Saturday, the upper level low continues to retrograde and move farther back to the west, and along with it, those showers will also move farther to the west, so we could be dealing with a stray shower on Saturday afternoon. Then on Sunday, a high pressure system called the Bermuda High will continue to edge closer to the eastern seaboard, and it will start to push and pump in so much more southerly flow with humid air, much what we saw the past couple of weeks with some oppressive conditions. So on Sunday, the muggies do return here for the Commonwealth. Let's take a look at that humidity tracker, a tracker that we want to show you here on whether or not these light blues and light greens indicate an air mass that is actually a little bit comfortable outside, but once you get into these orange colors, that's a little oppressive out there. So let's start with Thursday going into Friday. Some blues and light greens left for Pennsylvania, so a little bit of relief this beginning of the weekend. But as we head into Saturday night into Sunday, notice these orange start to creep on in. That's thanks to a southerly flow from this Bermuda High off the coast, so it will feel a little bit more uncomfortable heading into the end of the weekend, and that will continue as we head into the beginning of next week as well. So let's break it down with a little few more details on your forecast. Friday, we're left with mostly sunny skies and a high of around 80 degrees. A little bit relief as we're dealing with less humidity. A few showers, but those will be restricted to our far most eastern counties of Pennsylvania. Friday night, a comfortable one ahead with partly cloudy skies and a low of around 58 degrees. Then on Saturday, we warm back up to 82 degrees, left with some sun and clouds passing at times. If you are enjoying the festivities of Arts Fest this weekend, I do suggest to lather on the sunscreen or at least bring a hat along with you. Then on Saturday night, a cool one ahead as well, a low of around 60 degrees with partly cloudy skies. Then we warm back up on Sunday around 83 degrees. A few scattered showers around the state as that high pressure system starts to pump in some much more humid air for the day on Sunday. We'll be back in a moment with more. June 27, 2013, State College was pounded with potent thunderstorms. A whopping 3.38 inches of rain inundated the area in a very short amount of time. That's nearly the average amount of rain we see here for the entire month of June. Many streets in the area transformed into lakes and rivers. Downtown businesses nervously watched as water spilled over curbs and approached their doorways. Yet people still braved the elements and went on driving through flooded roadways, unbeknownst to the hidden dangers that lie beneath. The meteorologist in charge here at the National Weather Service office in State College, Mr. Bruce Budd, explains some of the dangers.
There's a number of hazards when traveling on flooded roads. In particular, though, I think that you want to be careful when you're driving, that you don't know what's underneath and the depth of the water. There are certain criteria that would lend you to stop and not travel on the roads. For instance, if the water is running across the road, or if it's certainly any deeper than 2 feet, your car is susceptible to floating away.
Each year, more deaths occur due to flooding than from any other severe weather-related hazard. And over half of all flood-related drownings happen when a vehicle is driven through floodwaters. One reason so many people drown during flooding is because few realize the incredible power of water. Just 6 inches of fast-moving water can knock the feet out from underneath an adult, and water up to the top of a tire can carry away most vehicles. Pennsylvania is no stranger to flooding rains, as the terrain can enhance the danger.
Pennsylvania has a history of flooding. As you know, we're kind of living ridge and valley locations, mountainous terrain. So it doesn't take much, several inches of water in a short period of time to create torrents. And our area here on State College, there's some well-known locations down on East College Avenue where a branch of Slap Cabin Run comes in. It does flood down there.
So how can you remain safe the next time flooding is possible in your area? Well, be alert and monitor the flood watches and warnings that the National Weather Service issues. Often, the NWS is in contact with emergency managers to find out the latest information on flooded roads and includes it with their warnings. Of course, with a large-scale rain event such as a tropical storm or a hurricane, not every problem can be captured and included in a warning. So Mr. Bruce Budd offers this statement to those still considering risking their lives and others by driving through flooded areas.
People think they're somewhat immune to trouble when you're in a car, which of course isn't the case. So I guess you have to tell drivers, is the risk worth the reward? Is it worth going through some higher water for, with the potential loss of your car or even perhaps your life as a result?
Most flood-related deaths and injuries could be avoided if when you come to an area in the road that's covered with water, you follow the simple advice. Turn around, don't drown. Reporting for Weather or Not, I'm Travis Patterson.
Thanks, Travis. Now let's take one more look at the extended forecast and this weekend's weather. And if you're out and about at Arts Fest, not a bad weekend to do so. Looks great out there. 80 degrees on Friday. That's 2 degrees below average. Now as we get closer to Sunday, that average bumps up to 83 degrees. And we do warm up a little bit, though. It will be warm and it will be sunny, but we will not see the chance of that afternoon thunderstorm thanks to a bit of high pressure that will keep our sky relatively clear, except for the passage of a couple of clouds. It's some nice shade, and on the topic of shade, make sure to stay hydrated out there and wear some sunscreen because these are prime days to get some good sunburns while you're outside. And prime days for sunburns and continue into next week. Monday and Tuesday, much of the same weather we'll see this weekend, just a touch above the average of 83 degrees. And Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we expect the flow of weather to begin to come from the from the south, rather. And once that happens, we'll see more humidity and warmer air funnel into the area. Alongside that, more moisture and the greater chance for seeing an afternoon shower or thunderstorm. So keep that in mind for the end of next week. But now we're in the midst of summer, and I can tell you next week we'll start off warm and sunny. All in all, a good weekend to be out and about at the Arts Festival in downtown State College. Now, if you're leaving your house in the morning, you may be bringing a sweatshirt with you, but I promise you, you will have shed that by the afternoon. Combining brilliant sunshine with some slightly above average temperatures, you'll feel quite hot walking around the festivities. Now, that being said, our heat is nothing compared to the heat that has been around the southwestern United States this past week and actually this past summer. And that's a good topic for us to move it over to the Weather Whiz Quiz. The Weather Whiz Quiz this week was, how many acres of grass or sage must a wildfire be active in to be considered a large incident? Is it A, 500, B, 400, C, 300, or D, 200? The answer is C, 300 acres. Now, if a forest fire is in a wooded or area with a lot of timber, it only needs to be active in about 1 to 200 acres of land. Thankfully, in Pennsylvania, we have been wet this summer, or at least relatively wet, especially in June, so our forest fire risk is at a minimum for now. Said, if you're camping this weekend and you choose to have a campfire, please keep it contained and keep a source of water next to it, just in the case that it goes a little further than what you were planning. And now I'm going to head out and enjoy Arts Festival myself. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Weather or Not. I was your host and your forecaster, Tom Bedard. We'll see you next time.